Time job.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
That's right, Active Health Chiropractic. I don't even know if I should say this. I don't know if I'm helping them or condemning them. And they're certainly my chiropractors, and I've had great success and a lot of relief coming from the professionals at Active Health. So Joe Coleman is our guest. This is Mondays are kind of my religion hour, or religion afternoon, rather, as I have both Pastor Austin Hill of the First Presbyterian Church, a fine man of Christ. And the same goes for Joe Coleman. Since I came to Fort Dodge years ago, Joe, and I was told one thing about Fort Dodge, you're either Catholic or Lutheran or you're in a cult. That was really true then, but we still have 6 Lutheran churches. We still had, that's a big number of Lutheran churches.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, we were talking right before the break, and I wanted to follow up just a little bit with you, if I may, Mike. This whole concept of, you know, when we pass over the bar or when we transition into the eternal now, we believe one of the first things that happens to us is the partial judgment, okay? The final judgment will be when all of mankind that ever existed are all together at one place, the sheep and the goats. We're all familiar with that. But the initial judgment takes place immediately upon our death. And at that point, we come face to face with Christ, and we have the opportunity to see him and to have our eyes opened, if you will, to have the veil pulled back. Now, the reason that I'm saying this is that most people that you and I run into in our lives, and even ourselves from time to time, we always say, you know, I want what I deserve. I've merited this. Give me what I deserve.
Yeah.
Well, my hallucination is that's the last thing that I ever want to say to Christ. Give me what I deserve.
Boy, you are such a Catholic today. That is such a Catholic thing to say. Because we all deserve the big hammer. I know.
Yeah. Well, you know, we like to think as Catholics. I'm sure the joke is clear that we have the monopoly on guilt.
Oh,
I know that. I know.
There's no doubt.
But the point I'm trying to make is that the concept of mercy, that's one of the reasons why John Paul II made the first Mass after Easter Divine Mercy Sunday, because it is this concept that as theologians we continue to develop and see that God's mercy is bottomless. And it is something that he must give us if we request it. It would be a contradiction for him to deny his mercy to us if we request it. That's why you see that picture on Divine Mercy Sunday of the Christ with the red rays and the white rays emanating out of his hands.
Sure.
One is justice, where we either come to the Lord in his justice, or we come to him in his mercy. You and I have talked about this before. Never, never, never seek to go to the Lord in his justice. Go to the Lord in his mercy.
Let's talk about mercy, though, just for a minute, Joe. Is that are we justified by faith? Because the Protestants will say that, and I understand what they're saying perfectly. Or do we have to seek forgiveness?
Well, we have to seek forgiveness, and you know, some would say that the word forgiveness is a euphemism for love, for the demonstration of love and the constant effusement of love to everyone that we see. But the point I was trying to make very simply is that when we ask for Christ's mercy, it cannot be withheld from us. We may be the last dude out of purgatory, but at least we got into purgatory, okay?
All right.
So this is this wonderful concept of the Lord's mercy and how much and just how unfathomable it is, and all of the intricacies of it that touch every single living moment of our lives, especially of our conscious lives, when we gain the use of reason to know the difference between right or wrong. It's just, the bottom line is we are so daggone lucky that we don't even have a clue how lucky we are.
How so?
Well, because I'm a firm believer that the only people that don't have the opportunity to spend eternity with the Lord are the people that choose that. And that you have to affirmatively choose not to go upwards, but to go downwards, if you will, in common parlance.
Right.
Because there is so much love and there's such a desire. Do you think for a second that the creator of everything that ever was would send his own son down to die for us, not to give us every opportunity to be with him forever?
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. And we try and take theological principles and boil them down to the common vernacular so they're easy for all of us to understand and wrap our minds around it. But that's what this really is about. This short term that we have, this fleeting, this blinking of an eye. They say the universe is 14 billion years old, and the gospel. One of the readings earlier was, we all have, it's the 90th Psalm. 8 years, except for the tough ones, the stronger ones may live to get 80 years. Okay.
Yeah.
And
sure.
that's right. That's right in the 90th Psalm. So this idea is, when you take those 70 or 80 years and you pump them against the 14 billion years that the universe is old, it's not even hardly a microsecond. And that is our existence here in the sight of the Creator, this microsecond. And we have the opportunity to get ready. This life is really a preparation for eternity.
Yes.
And I personally believe that if we don't take the opportunity, it's like getting ready for the big game. Those people who practice, who take batting practice and fielding practice and catch flies, they're going to be better suited than the people that don't do batting practice, fielding practice, or catch flies, when all of a sudden you're tossed a mitt and say, hey, get out there in the field and play now.
Well, it's easier to do that now than in the old Catholic Church. When I was a kid, Joe, I went to the county fair and ate a hot dog on a Friday, and I thought my mother was going to lose her mind. We had to go to confession the next day, and first on the list was that I'd eaten a hot dog on Friday, of course.
Well, you were lucky. I always considered that I aged and wrinkled the priest that I went to.
I don't know. I went to a confession when I got married, and the priest asked me when was my last confession. I said 15 years ago, and he said, "What are your sins?" And I decided to tell him, and I could hear him clearing his throat over there quite a bit. Finally at the end, he came over and said, you should really come a little bit more often. We wouldn't be in here this long. So, okay.
You know what the amazing part of that whole concept of that sacrament is, Mike, that most people don't take advantage of it because they're embarrassed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's just no other way to put it. They're just embarrassed because they think that the priest may know them or recognize them, and later on he'll think less of them, blah, blah, blah. I know as a lawyer, both as a prosecutor and as a defense lawyer, I've heard, like I've told you before, everything there is to hear, okay? You don't remember that stuff. And most of the time, clients that I had who were just exactingly honest wound up with my admiration more than my thinking, well, they're a jerk or something like that.
Sure.
And I think that goes with the priest too, because when the priest sits in the confessional, he's in persona Christi. He's in the person of Christ. He is merely the conduit for the absolution of sins and the forgiveness of sins. Now, that's what we believe as Catholics. I know that there are others out there that wonder about that. But it's interesting. This Sunday was Pentecost Sunday. And, when the Holy Spirit descended upon the apostles with the tongues of fire and breathed on them, one of the things that was said to them, whose sins you shall forgive are forgiven them, whose sins you shall retain, they are retained. Holy mackerel. That's the real deal. They were given the power at that point, at Pentecost, to forgive sins. But it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming when you stop to consider the nature of it.
Yes, it is. I've spent a lot of time in meditation and prayer, and at the end of it, and I told Pastor Hill this. At the end of it, I still don't understand it. I really don't. It's like the world itself. And I told Pastor Hill this. I just don't understand the world. And I'm, since I made that decision, I'm at peace. I mean, it sounds funny, but I am.
Well, there's something to be said for that. The other thing, you and I might agree if we sat down and talked about the most wonderful minds that ever graced this planet. One of them, I think you and I might agree on, is Thomas Aquinas.
Certainly.
Who is absolutely spectacularly brilliant. And he was the guy, of course, that wrote Summa Theologica, which is, the treatise on the theology on everything.
Right.
And he's on his deathbed, and he has the opportunity to see what he has done and everything. And it's reputed what some of his last words were: of everything that I have done is so much straw in the wind.
Really?
When you have the opportunity to compare our measly efforts with the Creator and everything the Creator has done. You and I have talked about this before. It'd be easier to teach calculus to a cockroach than for you and I to approach an understanding of the Lord.
Well, yeah, the cockroach would have it figured out long before. That's for sure. I couldn't agree with you more there. Joe Coleman is our guest. This is AM 1400 KVFT, the voice for Dad. You remember Janie Burleson?
I'm drawing a blank.
Janie Burleson, she was a black union leader here in our town, and she was
okay
on the city council for many, many years. We lost Joe. Well, we lost him. Well, yeah, Janie Burleson is in the green room, so to speak, and we'll talk with her in a few minutes.
Emergency rooms are reporting a disturbing spike in ISI. ISI is on the rise, and we must work together to stop it. Internet scrolling injuries can happen to anybody shopping for a car. Kemna Chevrolet, Buick, GMC, and Ford Dodge stops scrolling and the insidious injuries it instigates. Kemna's solution is people.